Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and how are you doing today? I'm so excited to be with you this morning. So if you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section so that we can get this session started. So I need some confirmations, please. If you can see my screen and you can hear my voice clearly, kindly type in hi in the comment section so that we can get this session started. Please, if you can see my screen and you can hear my... Okay, so what do we have here? All right, thank you, Innocent Babe. Good morning to you. All right, okay, so we have 441. Hi, how are you? 519. Good morning. We also have Polter just 88. Good morning to you. All right, and we have who else do we have in the house? We have 316. Hi, we have 157. Hello, Gustin. Good morning to everyone. I'm so excited, and I trust you excited this morning. So let's come with positive energy this morning. So I want to welcome you all to yet another promising session on Extra Speed Live, hosted by my humble self, Sheriff Daramola. And as usual, I will be taking you on a trading journey in the next 1 hour, where we shall be evaluating the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session today. Well, yesterday was quite an interesting experience for us on the financial market, as the major event which we actually um, expected was a major catalyst, as we saw quite a lot of volatility in the market between the later part of the New York session yesterday, and I hope we were able to take advantage of some trade. So we are going to be running through all the pairs we've been deliberating on since Monday. We have a couple of pairs we've been monitoring since Monday. We are going to be looking at how well these pairs are doing so far, and if there are any opportunity that we could take advantage of, we shall be going through those, simulating those possibilities, and let's see if the market is going to give us another opportunity, especially for those who missed out on the opportunity that came in the market yesterday. Also, if you have any pair you want us to look at, feel free to drop it in the comment section of this video, and let's see how I can incorporate this into my plan for today. So without further ado, let's dive into the chart and let's see what is happening in the market right now. And lest I forget, I have this, I was able to pull out the economic calendar today, and we have, since we have uh, a trade, we have a pair that we'll be monitoring on Monday, in the form of the GBP. So we have quite a series of events coming up in a couple of hours. I think in an hour from now, we have the Bank of England minute. We have the Bank of England monetary policy report, a very important event. We have the asset purchase facility, the interest rate decision, another very important event we need to look forward to. Then we have the MPC vote rate hike, rate cut, rate on change. We have the monetary policy summary, and we have the Bank of England's governor giving us a speech by in the next 1 hour 30 minutes. And then we have the ISM service PMI for the month of October, which is also going to be affecting the US dollar for today. So what we want to be doing here is to look at what structures we have in the market, and let's see how the structures and our participants in this market are actually anticipating this catalyst that we are looking forward to move price action. So let's dive into the charts and let's see what is going on in the market right now. So the first pair we are going to be looking at, as usual, is the US oil. And on the US oil, we have quite a scenario here where personally on this one, I'm already out of this trade after citing the multiple rejection of the $89 level, though we had a breakout of structure happen during the New York session yesterday, but price did not come back to do the retest of the $89 level as price continued to find lower lows and lower highs. And as a result of this, I adjusted my stop loss to somewhere right below around the $88 to 20-cent level. So we saw this lower high here, which is more or less a sign that sellers are still very strong in this market at this juncture. So if we look at what has been happening since the beginning of the week, we can see that how important the $89 level has been for sellers in this market. So at the beginning of the week, we saw the first rejection of that $89 level. I think later part of last week trading session, we witnessed the retest of that structure, and during the early days of this week, we saw a multiple rejection of that level. Another one happened yesterday, followed by another rejection during the early hours of today to emphasize the selling strength of the sellers. The strength of the sellers at this point in time. So as a result of that, I was able to move my stop loss to lock in some profit, and boom, I was taken out a couple of hours ago on this one. So how are you doing on this pair personally from your own end? I hope you are able to take some profit here on the US oil as we see price action continue to trend on the lower side. So at this point in time, what is going to be our plans going into the New York session today? Are we still going to be thinking of buying the US oil, or is there a possibility that we could be having a situation where we might be having selling structures that will be sending the bearish signal going forward? So let's quickly run through the higher time frame. Let's quickly have an holistic perspective of what is going on in this market, and let's see if the structures we have on the higher time frame still supports this bullish momentum that we have been anticipating since the beginning of the week. So scaling up into the daily time frame, and let's see what we have here on the daily time frame. Well, looking at the current structure we have here, like I've always explained to you since I think since the time we've been monitoring the US oil as usual, we have this bullish trend line which has been after connecting the series of higher lows here. So we had that bullish trend line which has been holding bullish momentum in the last 2 years for the US oil. So as a result of this, we had that bullish trend line figured out. And then if we zoom into the current structure if we go to as far as the month of June, we were also able to connect the series of higher lows here, lower highs rather, to give us that bearish trend line, which took price to collapse right back into that bullish trend line in the month of September. And following the collapse into that structure here around the $80 mark, we saw a situation where bullish momentum took over the market one more time to break out of that bearish trend line to give us a bullish signal. However, if we look at the current structure here, we can see that we have a very important key structure at the $86 level, which has been a major determinant of price action in the past. Look at how participants in this market gathered here to buy the US oil during the month of August, though we saw attempt by the buyers to push price to the upside here in the month of September, but this was met with strong resistance from the sellers, which finally pushed price to break down the $86 level, and throughout the month of September, price has continued to trade right below the $86 mark. And what this simply tells us is that, first of all, the first thing it tells us is that the $86 level is a major determinant of price action, and secondly, it tells us that prior to the events of the month of October, price has been on a strong bearish momentum. As we can see, throughout the month of September, price was trading right below that level. However, the breakout of the bearish trend line here, which also lines up with the key level at its $6 level, is more or less a bullish signal, and this is as a reflection of the decision of the OPEC Plus to cut oil production, and we saw the reflection on the chart with that bullish engulfing candle taking us right out of that structure 3 to 4 weeks ago. And this was followed by a retracement phase. We can see as soon as price got into the $93 level, we saw bearish momentum, which we actually took advantage of as well, as we saw price climb down, break down the $86 level one more time, come back into the $82 area. And what happened around the $82 area was quite interesting, as we saw a retest of the structure that was broken, which was followed by buying pressure from the $82 level. So it tells us that that level has been a strong buying niche for participants in this market, as every attempt by the sellers to push price right below the $82 level has been met with strong resistance from the buyers. And this eventually led into the breakout of the $86 level, which is more or less a sign that we might be having a bullish continuation pattern here. And we saw the retest of the structure during the course of the week. Price retested the $86 level, which also lines up with the bullish trend line we identified earlier. And since then, we have been seeing bullish momentum since the beginning of the week, and which we have been taking advantage of prior to this moment. So going into the New York session today, what is going to be our plans for the US oil? What are we going to be looking at for the US oil? So in order to trade the US oil going into the New York session today, there are two things we want to be looking at. Well, the first thing we want to be looking at is to see what is really going on in this market here. As we can see, we had this engulfing candle taking price right into the $89 level. And since price got into the $89 level, we started seeing selling pressure from that area. So what we want to see is what is going on here. Is this going to turn out to be a trend continuation pattern following this impulsive move? That is, we might be seeing something like a bullish rectangular pattern to incite a trend continuation to the upside. That is the first scenario we want to be looking at. Or we could be having a situation where a reversal pattern happens around this area to send price crashing down into the $86 level one more time. So these are the things we want to be looking at going into the New York session today. So in order to do that, we need to scale down to a much lower time frame to understand what is really going on right around the $89 level. So when we scale down to a much lower time frame, let's say the 1 hour time frame, for instance, here. Hold on a second. Let me see the 2 hours time frame. Let me see the 2 hours time frame. Okay. So right on the 2 hours time frame, this is what we observe here. So in order to make things more clearer, let's take this all out as we don't need this anymore. All right. So let me delete this. Should I delete this? Okay, let's still hold this. Let me take this out of that structure. Okay, so we have the scenario here when we are right on the 2 hours time frame now, and what we observed is that we had this bullish momentum that took price right into the $89 level during the course of last week's trading session. And since price got into the $89 level, see what has been happening. And this has been happening since last week. We saw selling pressure right from that level. So we saw the first one here, second one here, we had a third one, then we had the fourth one during the course of New York session yesterday, and we had the fourth one during the early hours of today to signify how strong the sellers are at this point in the market. So at this point, are we going to be seeing a scenario where price will be going to the downside, considering the fact that we have this bearish signal coming right from the $89 level? Well, in order to have a better perspective into this, what I want to be doing here is to connect the series of higher lows here to give us a resultant bullish trend line to guide our actions going forward. And I think we are going to be having a couple of lines here to guide our bullish momentum. So the first one is from this level last week. So we have this first scenario here, which I want to, okay, so we have this one. So let's give it an outright line. So we have this one, and then we might be using this one as well as a yardstick for any trading opportunity for today. So we have this temporary bullish trend line, which I will call it for now. And then let's make it a dotted line, a dashed line rather. And we have something like, so let's go back to our line chart. So we have a scenario here where price has continued to respect that bullish trend line since the later part of since mid-month of October. We saw our price has consistently respected that bullish trend line, and the same thing happened during the early days of this week. And we have a scenario where price has been respecting this temporary bullish trend line since the beginning of the week. So what I will be suggesting here is this, considering the current structure we have here. Well, the first one is that temporary trend line. So if we are going to see this temporary trend line guide bullish momentum, what I want to be looking forward to is an outright breakout of the $89 level. So if I see an outright breakout of the $89 level, that is, I see an engulfing candle taking out all the sell position that is here, then I want to be seeing that as a bullish signal. But remember, we are not getting too excited at this point, as we want to wait for price action to give us further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of either the bullish trend line here or the $89 level, followed by buying pressure on lower time frame. Then we could actually join the trend continuation to the upside. So that is the first scenario I'm looking forward to at this point. Then the second scenario is a situation where we might be having a breakdown of this temporary bullish trend line, which appears to be happening right now, but we can't call this a breakdown yet, as we need to see how this candle running right now is going to close. So if we have a breakdown of that trend line, then we might be seeing a situation where price comes back to do a retest of either the $89 level or the bullish trend line here to start giving us reversal patterns on lower time frame that would probably send price crashing back into that bullish trend line or the key level here to, we never can tell how price is going to relate to that level around this area, that is around the $86 level and the bullish trend line. So we will be having a couple of scenarios too to look out for if price comes within that area. So there are two things we might be looking out for at this point. We could be seeing a situation where buying pressure comes out from this level to send price going to the upside. That is the first scenario. And if this bearish trend line, if this bearish move continue to break down the $86 level, retest of structure could send price crashing further to the downside. So what I'll be advising at this point is this: how do we intend to trade this? So if at any point in time we see a breakdown of this trend line, retest of structure followed by selling pressure on lower time frame, if you are a counter trend trader or you love scalping, you could actually take advantage of this potential bearish move that could happen here. That is breakdown, retest of that bullish trend line. Then you could actually join that move somewhere around the $85 level. And as soon as price moves in our direction, you want to lock in some profit, move your stop loss accordingly to lock in some profit at that point. So if we are going to be taking that counter trend opportunity, we should be having we should be aiming at somewhere within minimum of 200 to about 300 pips in that scenario. But if you are not a counter trend trader, I will advise that even if we have this breakdown retest of that structure, we'll wait for price for this bearish move to culminate. That is, we want to wait for this bearish move to end before we start looking for another opportunity to buy the US oil. However, if price does not plunge, that is, price does not break down that bullish trend line and price continues to go to the upside, that is respecting this bullish trend line, well, I would be advising that we want to see an outright breakout of that structure first of all to give us that bullish signal. And remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to remain very patient and wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of the structure before we join the trend continuation to the upside. So this is what I'll be looking out for on the US oil for today, and I hope that we'll be on standby to take advantage of any of these opportunities that comes up when price move in the possible simulation I was able to play out. So if you have any question regarding what I just explained so far, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section and let's see how I can be of help in that regard. So I'll be taking the next 10 to 15 seconds to read through the charts and see if there are any questions whatsoever before I move on to the next pair. So let's see what's happening in the comment section. Okay, we already have Steamroller in the house. Good morning. Looking forward to another informative session. Great, sure. I hope I deliver. All right, good morning to you, Steamroller. Thanks for that comment. All right, Mori Asmin is in the house. Good morning. So we have 225. Good morning to you. We have Nani SRJ72. I hope I got that correctly. Good morning to you. Then we have 359 in the house too. Good morning, 359. 330 also. Hello, good morning. How are you doing today? All right. So I am Neil. Who can help me? Of course, all right, you're Neil. You're welcome on board. So what we do here simply is we come here to analyze the financial market using technical parameters to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session today. So that's what we simply do here. And if you have any pair commodity options you want us to look at, feel free to drop it in the comment section and I will try to incorporate it into my plans for today. So this is what we do here on a daily basis. We come here, gather ourselves, monitor price action, make a decision, come back the following day and do a review of what our expectations were and what we've been doing so far, and then make another plan for the next New York session. So that's what we simply do here. So you're welcome once again, 265. So I hope you stay tuned in through the end of the session so that you don't miss out on any of the opportunities that I will be dishing out during the course of the session. So all right, so that is that on this one today. So I guess in the absence of no questions, I just move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at today is the US tech. And on the US tech, we had quite an impressive scenario here on the US tech yesterday, as we saw price push to the downside. So if you are taking advantage of this bearish momentum yesterday, kudos to you. As we saw a situation, remember on Monday, I think on Tuesday, we saw this move that broke down that bullish trend line. Remember, we had this bullish trend line running, and this bullish trend line followed by lower highs. We had this first high here, then we saw lower highs here, followed by selling pressure right below the $11,550 level to incite that possible bearish momentum. Though I didn't take advantage of that move, we give kudos to those who took advantage of that move as we saw the breakdown of that bullish trend line. And since the breakdown of that structure, we saw what happened in the last 24 hours. We saw our price was caught within a consolidation phase right within the $11,350 level and the $11,250 area. And one thing I said here yesterday is that we want to be waiting for a signal to give us further confirmation that we want to be joining that direction that signal insinuates. And what we saw here was quite interesting. You know, I told you how this this channel here is more or less considered a bearish rectangular pattern. So we had this impulsive move that led into this channel. So it's more or less a rectangular pattern. And most of the time when we have rectangular patterns like this, we are obviously going to be seeing a breakdown of that structure, retest to join the decline to the downside, and that's exactly what happened, despite the fact that we had a buy zone here. And if structure states otherwise, we will have to just neglect that structure. So we had the breakdown of the structure yesterday, and following the FOMC report for yesterday, we saw this engulfing move that shake out all the sellers from this market. It was actually a fake move anyways, and as soon as that happened, we placed stop loss right below the $11,250 because we already saw that signal that price is going to the downside. So this was a breakdown of the 11,250. What's happening here? I'm trying to click this. Okay, so we had the breakdown of the structure, and that was a signal that we are looking forward to, and price came back down, and we saw a situation where price continued to the downside. So for those who took advantage of that move, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move. And right now, what is going to be our expectation on the US tech as we head into the New York session? Well, if we look at what has been happening here in the last couple of weeks now, we can see that sellers are really very strong in this market as we continue to find lower lows and lower highs. However, in the last 24 hours now, since price dropped significantly back into the $10,870 level, what we have observed here, let me scale down to the 1 hour time frame. I think that would make things more easier to look at. So we saw a situation where we had this impulsive move right back into the $10,870 level, and immediately price tested the $10,870. We started seeing buying pressure from that area, which incited a situation that looks more like a channel. As we can see, we had the structure around this area, and one thing I'll be saying here is that this is more or less another trend continuation pattern in the form of a bearish rectangular pattern. And whenever we have a bearish rectangular pattern like this, what is the next thing we are going to be expecting? We want to be expecting a breakdown, retest of that structure to give us further confirmation to join the decline to the downside. So if you had missed the scenario here, that is, you have missed this bearish move that broke down the $10,870 level, well, I will be advising you to be patient enough and wait and see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance which is going to be coming in the form of a retest of either the $10,870 level or this channel here, followed by selling pressure on lower time frame. Then we could actually join the decline to the downside. So that is how we want to be looking at the US tech for today. If you have any questions, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and I'll be looking at the charts from time to time to see if there are any questions whatsoever. All right, okay. So the next pair we are going to be looking at today is going to be the EURUSD, and on the EURUSD, what happened yesterday too was quite interesting, as we saw this after the FOMC, we saw this bullish engulfing move that took price to the upside, which appeared to now be a false one. And as at yesterday, I published on my TradingView platform that as soon as we saw this volatile movement of price action, where I told us to opt out of all trades and wait for the market to settle, which we waited till sometime later in the early hours of today, and we saw this final breakdown of that demand zone, which I told you yesterday that I'm only going to be selling the EURUSD only if price breaks down that strong demand zone that has been holding buying pressure at the 0.98600 level. And if a breakdown of that level happens, I want to be seeing that as a bearish signal, but not getting too excited, but to wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of structure. Well, a retest of structure actually happened around the 0.98400 level, as we saw that price came back to do a retest of that level, which also lines up with that bearish trend line that has been holding selling pressure since the beginning of the week. So we had this bearish trend line identified here yesterday, remember? So we said this bearish trend line will continue to hold sell pressure if price breaks down that bearish trend line, retest it on this time frame, then we want to be joining that trend continuation. Though we had a breakout of that structure here, we can see price came back below that level. Though we had a breakout again here, price came down, break down that level during the FOMC to signal that we are going to be having a bearish momentum. And this is exactly what happened, as we saw the breakdown, retest of the structure, and price continue to go to the downside from that area. Personally, I missed this move on my own end because I woke up very late this morning. I slept very late because of the FOMC. I was monitoring price action. I slept very late, but when I woke up this morning, I saw the breakdown retest of the structure that happened, and I actually missed that. So I'm still expecting that the market is going to be giving me a second chance to join this decline. And for those who actually took advantage of this move, in fact, congratulations to you guys for being on standby to take advantage of this breakdown. In fact, we had multiple rejections. The market gave us quite a lot of time. We had the first rejection, the second rejection, we had the third one, we had the fourth one. In fact, we had the fifth one around this area before that engulfing move took price right down into the 0.97360 area, which is at right now. So if you are taking that move, well done guys, as you will be in over 100 pips in profit at this point in time. So if you are taking that move, the first thing I'll be saying here is to move your stop loss accordingly, lock in some profit, as we don't know what is going to be happening afterward. And for those who missed out on this trade like me, that is those who missed out on the opportunity here, let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance in the form of a retest of structure. So we want to be looking forward to a possible retest of this bearish trend line at any point in time to give us another opportunity to join that decline. And if you're already in this trade, it will be another opportunity to add one more position to the existing trade on the EURUSD. So let's see what is happening on a higher time frame. Let's see if we have a structure we can actually use as a guide for selling opportunity as we get ourselves prepared for the New York session. So right here on the 4 hours time frame, if we bring out our line chart, we can see that we have a structure right around the 0.98100 level, which I will be able to connect here after look at what we have here. We can see something around this level, which was finally broken during the early hours of today. And one thing I'll be saying here is that let's see how price is going to be relating to that structure. So for the sake of clarity, let's label that area. So we are going to be labeling this level as the 0.98100 level. I hope I'm correct here. So we have the 0.98100 level. So let's see if price is going to come back and do that retest of that structure. So for those who are still in this trade, I'll be advising extend your TP accordingly. Move your TP to somewhere around the 0.96300 area. Let's try as much as possible to maximize this profit, and we continue to move our stop loss accordingly to protect our position against any sudden pullback. So what I'll be advising here is this: going into the New York session, we have a trend line here that will be guiding our action. So we have this trend line. So let's see if if this trend line is going to attract price one more time, come back into the structure, which lines up with the 0.98100 level. Look out for selling pressure right around that area on lower time frame. Then we could join the trend continuation to the downside on the Euro USD. And another thing I want to show you here on the 4 hours time frame is this bullish trend line that we identified at the beginning of the week. Remember, we identified this bullish trend line after connecting the series of higher lows here, as we can see, and we have this breakdown of that structure during the early hours of today, giving us a bearish signal. And whenever we have a breakdown of a structure, we expect that one point in time price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure. So we don't know how soon that is going to be, or even if it's going to happen at all. So let's keep waiting and see if the market is going to give us that chance. So we are looking at a retest of the structure, selling pressure right below the 0.98100 level to join the decline. But if it happens that price breaks out of that trend line, breaking out of the 0.98100 level, then we want to be waiting for a retest of the structure. That is the bullish trend line there, which also lines up with the demand zone I identified on the 1 hour time frame. Remember, we had this demand zone identified here, so we can see it lines up exactly with that structure. So let's see, let me show you what I mean by that. So we saw the breakdown of that demand zone here, which lines up with that bullish trend line. So if price comes back to do a retest of the structure, then we might be looking for selling pressure right around that area to join the decline to the downside. And if the decline happens, breakdown of the 0.981, retest of that structure, we had more position. Breakdown of this bearish trend line, retest of structure, we had more position to this trade. So there is a tendency for multiple entries on the Euro USD if price comes back into that bullish trend line. So let's see what happens in the next 24 hours, and definitely we're going to be coming back here tomorrow to make a review of what price action did in the last 24 hours. So that is that on the Euro USD. If you have any question whatsoever, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section, and let me see how I can be of help in making things a little bit clearer for you in that regard. So that is that on the Euro USD. So let's move on to the next pair, and the next pair we are going to be doing is the GBPUSD. We have Nimov FX2376 in the house saying that we want something on gold. Of course, we are going to be treating gold in the next couple of, the next pair after this one is going to be the gold. So I would advise that you stay tuned in so that you don't miss out on that information that I will be dishing out during the gold session. Okay. All right, so the next pair we are going to be treating is the GBPUSD. And what do we have on the GBPUSD? Hold on a second, my mouse just went to the second screen. Okay, so we have the GBPUSD here. And on the GBPUSD also, we had this significant move to the downside during the course of yesterday's trading session, which I also missed as well. It's quite funny, isn't it? I missed that move as well, as we saw the final breakdown of the 1.1400 level. Remember, that's a very important key level we identified on the daily time frame, which has been a strong selling niche for participants in this market. So we saw price breakdown, retest that structure. In fact, we had like 4-5 retest of that structure to give us a signal to join this decline to the downside. I missed this. I woke up very late this morning, so I missed this. And for those who took advantage of this move, kudos to you for being on standby as you took advantage of that move, and currently you will be running with over 150 pips in profit right now. So what I'll be saying here is lock in your profit at this point in time, and let's see how price action is going to play out in the next couple of hours. Now, the most important key level which I showed you here is the 1.1400 level. Let's see how that level played out during the the New York session yesterday. Let's have an holistic view of what's really happening in this market. So we scale up to the daily time frame. Let's see what really happened. So we have the daily time frame here. Okay. So what this simply means is that the bullish momentum we were expecting appears to have been negated at this point in time. And if we look at what we have here on the daily time frame, we can see that we are really on a long-term bearish momentum since the beginning of the year, and we have a bearish trend line to confirm that selling pressure. And we can see during the course of last week trading session, we saw how we saw selling pressure around that bearish trend line at this point to give us that bearish signal. And what happened yesterday was quite interesting, as we finally witnessed the breakdown of that bullish trend line. And we can see we had this bullish trend line running since the beginning of, I think since the later part of the month of September. We were able to connect the higher lows here to give us that resultant bullish trend line. So though we had the breakout of the 1.14 area, but as we can see now, price has broken down the 1.14, which also lines up with that bullish trend line that we identified earlier in the beginning of the week. So now we already have a bearish signal right now, as we saw the breakdown of the 1.14 area. So for those who missed out on that opportunity yesterday, well, I would be advising us to remain patient here, as there is a tendency that we might be having a second chance, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of the structure. And this is not likely going to happen in a day or two. It could take a week for that to happen. So let's be patient on this one. So if you had missed out on that move yesterday, let's wait out for price action to come back into the 1.14 area so that we can go in big on the GBP USD. However, going into the New York session today, are we going to wait for a week before we could take advantage of a retest of the structure? Well, it's not. We don't need to wait anyways. What we need to just do at this point is to look at what this candle running right now is doing on the lower time frame. Let's see how this candle is playing out on the lower time frame. Let's see if we could cite a trend continuation pattern on lower time frame, then we could actually join this decline till when it ends before the retracement back into the structure happens. Then we could join big on the GBPUSD to the downside. So let's scale down to the lower time frame. Let's see what is really going on with this candle running, this daily candle running at this point in time, and let's see if we can figure out a trend continuation pattern on lower time frame to join the decline. So scaling down to the lower time frame, I will be going to as far as, let's say, the 1 hour time frame. I guess I think the 1 hour time frame is most appropriate. So we have the situation here. We have the 1 hour time frame, and what do we have on the 1 hour time frame? So I want to have a very clean chart here. So the first thing I'll be doing is to delete some of these structures here which are no longer relevant. So let me see. Okay, let me delete this one. I no longer need this one. Okay, so we delete this one too as well. And now this is what we have here. So now we have this bearish trend line figured out at the beginning of the week, remember? So we had this bearish trend line which price has been respecting since later part of last week. So we saw selling pressure right around that bearish trend line, which finally led into the breakdown of that strong demand zone. And then we had the retest of structure here to push price to the downside. So if I were you, I will remain patient here to wait for another structure to evolve before I want to be joining that trend continuation. So I want to be seeing a reversal pattern somewhere around here, moving price right back into probably the 1.1400 level. Well, most important thing, even if price does not go that far, the most important thing we want to be looking forward to on lower time frame is reversal pattern, selling pressures. Then we want to be joining the decline from that level. So that's how we want to be trading the GBPUSD. So for those who missed out on this, let's be patient and wait for price action to come back and give us a an opportunity to add more position to our existing trade or join the decline afresh by coming back to do a retest of the 1.14 area, which, if you can see closely, it also lines up with that very straight line that I was able to identify at the beginning of the week. So let's see how this plays out in the next next 24 hours. So on this one, the only thing required here is patience. That's the only tool we need here. Patience. Let's be patient enough to wait for price action to give us that second chance to join that decline. So I hope this was helpful. And if you have questions, let me know. And while I move on to the next pair. So the next pair we are going to be looking at is the XAU USD. And I hope Nemo FX is still in the house for the XAU USD. If you are in, that's good. Let me know in the comment section. And if you have any question, let me know also in the comment section. So let's move on to the XAU USD. And I also hope Innocent Babe is in the house as well. All right. So the XAU USD was quite an interesting setup yesterday, and I hope we all took advantage of this move as price continued to find lower lows and lower highs. What was our expectation as at yesterday? Let me quickly run through what our expectations were on the XAU USD yesterday. So where were we as at yesterday? As at yesterday, we were around the $1,625 level, $1,655 level. That was where we are. And we identified the supply zone around this area. And remember, we took advantage of the bullish momentum right above the 1,645 when we cited the breakout retest of the structure. We took advantage of that move right into this area, remember? And I told you yesterday, as we were around this level, I told you to move your stop loss to lock in some profit on the XAU USD, which I'm very sure you did as well. And one thing we noticed during the New York session yesterday was a bearish signal that took us out of our buy position, break down that bullish trend line here. As you can see, let me show you. So we had this bullish trend line that has been holding price action bullish since the beginning of the week. Remember, we had the structure, though we had the breakdown here, price came back up, and since then price has been respecting that bullish trend line. And we said that if this bullish trend line is going to turn out to be a valid one, definitely we want to be seeing a significant breakout of that supply zone there, taking out all the sell position here to give us that bullish signal, after which we want to be joining that rally if a retest of that structure happens, which never happened anyways, as we saw the breakdown of that bullish trend line. Hold on a second. So we saw the breakdown of this bullish trend line during the course of yesterday. What's happening here? So we saw the breakdown of this bullish trend line here, giving us a signal. In fact, it was a breakdown retest of that structure to give us a signal to join that decline to the downside from that area. So this happened around immediately after the FOMC. This happened and price continued to decline to the downside. And remember, I told you as well, in fact, the structure here unfolded just as projected yesterday. We saw the situation, and I told you yesterday that if price continues to the downside and we have a breakdown of the $1,640 level, price comes back to do the retest of that structure, followed by selling pressure right below that level, we want to join that decline, and this is exactly what has happened so far as price continued to the downside. So for those who took advantage of this move yesterday, kudos to you. If you had missed this one, definitely the market gave us another second chance in the form of a breakdown retest of the structure during the early hours of today to give us another leverage to join that decline. So if you are taking advantage of that move, you will be in a total of, let's see, the first one is about 3,000 pips in profit, and then the second one from this one below the 1,640 is running with over 1,700 pips in profit right now. So kudos to you, congratulations guys for taking advantage of that move. So what we want to be doing right now is to see if the market is going to be giving us a second opportunity to actually join this decline. Remember, we have a structure at the $1,632 level, which I just identified during the early hours of today. And I'm thinking if price breaks down the structure, a retest of the structure is likely going to be giving us another opportunity to add more position to this trade. So what we are going to be waiting for during the New York session is to see if we are going to be having a move right back into the $1,632 level, followed by selling pressure on lower time frame. Then we could join the decline to the downside from that point. However, if we have the possibility of price action coming back into the 1,640 is still also very possible. So if we have a breakout of the 1,632, don't let us get too worried. there is a possibility that we could be having another sell momentum right below the 1640 area, followed by selling pressure there, breakdown of the 1632, retest to structure, add more position to your existing trade as price continue to move to the downside. So for those who are already in this trade, I will be advising you to move your stop loss to somewhere right above the $1,632 level, just to lock in some profit. As we can see, we have a structure around there. We had a demand zone here. We had a demand zone here before we saw the breakdown of that structure. So I'll be advising us to place our stop loss right above that structure, lock in some profits, and then we will be very comfortable in the sell position that we are in right now. So that is that on the XAUUSD. Let's quickly look at the higher time frame. Let's see if there is a chance that we could extend our TP from the $1,610 level. So if we scaled up to the daily time frame, the first thing we observed on the daily time frame is that price action. Let me delete this. I no longer need this. Let me use the other chart for this one. So okay, so on the daily time frame, the first thing we observe here is that price action has been on a bearish turn since the beginning of the year, and we had this bearish trend line connecting the series of lower highs here to give us that resultant bearish trend line. And as you can see, in the last couple of weeks, price has continued to respect that area inside, insinuating that the selling pressure here is quite strong. But remember, we have a demand zone at around the $1,620 area, which has been holding buying pressure since I think since the month of September. We saw every attempt by the sellers to push price to the downside has been met with strong resistance from the sellers, and right now it appears that price is coming back into that structure. So what we are going to be looking forward to at this point is to extend our TP. I'll be advising us to extend our TP. Hold on a second, let me see how far we can extend the TP here. If we take into consideration this impulsive move, here, by extending it, by extending it into the future using our Fibonacci extension tool, so we should be having a long-term perspective of aiming at somewhere within the 127.2 and the 1414 area. So let us identify that level. Let's be patient here. I still have something to share with you on this one. So we have TP target around this level. Hold on a second. Let's label it for the sake of clarity so that we can have a visual understanding of what our expectations are on the XAUUSD. So we have our take profit target sitting somewhere around the $1,580 level. So this is where we want to be having our long-term take profit target on the XAUUSD. So now that we have the scenario here, we have our take profit target around that level. Let's see how price action is going to relate with this demand zone here. Remember, you have moved your stop loss. Those who are already in this trade, this selling momentum we took advantage of yesterday, you've already moved your stop loss to lock in some profits. So we don't know what is really going to happen within this demand zone. Remember, this demand zone has been holding buying pressure in the past. It has a memory for buying power. So we want to see how price is going to relate to the structure during the New York session today. Are we going to be having a reversal pattern here one more time to send price to the upside? We don't know yet. Or are we going to be having an outright breakdown of the structure? And if that happens on our lower time frame, retest of structure should be giving us a further confirmation to add more position to our existing trade. So this is how we are going to be looking at the XAUUSD for now. So we have our take profit target on a long-term perspective right around the $1,580 level, and we want to be patient right now to see how price action is going to relate to the current structure here. If we are going to be having a breakdown retest, then we want to be adding more position to our existing trade. And if we are going to be having a reversal pattern here, then we've already locked in our profit, we've already locked our position in, and then we're not going to be caught in any panic of losing whatever we have gained so far. So that is that on the XAUUSD. If you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop in your inquiries in the comment section of this video. And scaling back to the 1 hour time frame here, I was able to show you, scaling back into the 1 hour time frame, remember I was able to show you that we have this $1,632 level and the $1,640 area So we have a sell window around this area as well. And for those who have missed out on this move, we still have another sell window between the 1632 and the 1645 area. So let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance. If that happens, be glad that market gave you. Take advantage of any sell momentum here on lower time frame to add more position or join the gold outrightly from that level. So that is that on the XAUUSD. I hope you found it simple enough to understand, and I also hope I was able to simulate all the possible scenarios that is likely going to be happening on the XAUUSD during the New York session today. So my hope is that we'll be on standby to take advantage of that move when it finally happens. Okay, I can see innocent babies in the house. All right, I hope I was clear enough for you for today. Okay, so let's see. All right. So we move on to the next pair, and this is going to be the last pair we are going to be taking for today, and that is the USDJPY. And on the USDJPY, we have a scenario that I have taken advantage of this morning. I told you I woke up very late this morning. I actually missed this move right above the neckline area at the 147, but I think the market was kind enough to give me another opportunity at a breakout of the 147.800 level. So what do I mean here? During the FOMC yesterday, we had this volatility move yesterday, which took price right into the 145, taking out all the sellers in this market. Those who took out the sell position right around the neckline area at the 147 Japanese yen level. Hold on a second, let me show you. So taking out all the sell position here, and we saw price move right down to that level, and we saw price climb up again the 147 key level, break out a little bit out of that bearish trend line, came back to do a retest of the 147 Japanese yen level, followed by a couple of buying pressure here. I think it lasted about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours before the second wave of that bullish momentum happened. So for those who took advantage of the move right from this level, kudos to you for being on standby to take advantage of that move. For me personally, I missed it, and I was hoping that the market would give me a second chance, as I was hoping that we will be having a breakout of the 147.800, which finally has happened. And currently I'm running with about how many pips in profits? About 50 pips in profit right now. So the next thing I did was to move my stop loss before the live session today, and I've moved my stop loss to break even at this point. Well, for those who missed out on this opportunity yesterday, there is a likelihood that the market is going to be giving us a second chance to join this rally. And for those who are already in this rally, the market might be giving us a second chance to add more position to your existing trade. So for those who took advantage of this move right from this level, kindly move your stop loss to somewhere right above the 147.400 area. Let's see how the market plays out. You know that when we cite a breakout of a structure like this, we expect that there is a likelihood that price might come back to do a retest of that structure here. So if that's going to be happening, we want to be seeing something like this, that we saw the breakout of that structure. We want to see price coming back into the structure in such a way that we start having buying pressure around this area that will be inciting the second wave of that bullish momentum. And if you remember yesterday, I told you that I'm not going to be buying the USDJPY after citing this higher lows here. Remember, we identified this lower highs here, and then we had that bearish trend line, and I said I am not going to be buying this USDJPY unless I see a significant breakout of that bearish trend line, which has happened in the during the early hours of today. So if a retest happens, then I think it's an opportunity to add more position to this trade. So let's see how the market is going to play out in the next couple of hours on this one. So for those who took advantage of this move, kudos to you. And for those who took advantage of this move at the 147.800 level, kudos to you as well for being on standby to take advantage of that move. So let's see if the market is going to be giving us another opportunity to join this decline, this rally. If a retest of structure happens, then we want to be getting ready to add more position to this trade. So what if price does not come back to the 147 area to do a retest of structure? Are we going to abandon this trade and let's see the bullish momentum rise? Well, look at the structure we have here. We have something around the 148.400 level, which we can also take advantage of. As we can see, we begin to see selling pressure right from that level. during the last 1 hour now. So I want to be labeling this area for the sake of clarity. So we have the 148.400 level. So let's place it right at the top right hand side of my screen. We have it like this. So all right, so we have it like this. So we have the 148.400 area. So what I'm saying here is that if price decides not to plunge, that is, price does not decide not to come down, and then we see a breakout of the 148.400 level, then we want to be seeing that as a bullish signal. But remember, you're not getting too excited. We wait for price action to give us further confirmation in the form of a retest of either the 148.400 or the 147.400. But the most important thing we are looking forward to is buying pressure on lower time frame. Then we could join the rally to the upside. So that is that on the USDJPY. It's a very simple setup we have here on the USDJPY, and I hope that we can take advantage of this move when price finally breaks out of that 148.400 or does a retest of the 147.800 level. So on this note, I want to be calling it a day on the with the USDJPY. But before I do, let's do a quick recap of what our expectations are on the pairs we've been monitoring since the beginning of the week. So the first pair we looked at today is the US oil, and on the US oil, we've been taken out of our buy position at this point with over 200 pips thereabout on the two positions that we took advantage of at the beginning of the week. And I was able to tell you here that we want to see, okay, hold on a second, let me look at this. Okay, so we have the scenario here. So on this on the US oil for today, we have a couple of structures that we were able to identify here on both the 1 hour and the 2 hours time frame. So we had two trend lines. The first trend line is the major trend line that we have here, the one you can see on your screen with the black straight line. And then we have the temporary one with the black dotted line on your screen. And one thing I said here is that following the selling pressure we have identified at the $89 level here, we want to be mindful of jumping into any bullish trade at this point in time, as we need further confirmation to give us a signal that the buyers are very strong at this point. And what we want to be looking as a signal is a breakout of the $89 level here to give us a bullish signal that is price has taken out all the sell position here to emphasize the strength of the buyers at this point in the market. However, despite seeing that breakout of the $89 level, remember, we are not getting too excited. We want to wait, we want to be patient enough to wait for price action to give us further confirmation, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of structure, probably a buying pressure on lower time frame before we join that rally to the upside. Then the other scenario is a possible breakdown of the bullish trend line here. That is, if we see a significant breakdown of that trend line, retest of structure might likely send sell signal. And if you're a counter trend trader, I told you could take advantage of it. But if you are not, well, I would advise you remain patient and wait for price action to come back into our buy zone, which is around the bullish trend line here. Remember, we just identified this bullish trend line that price has been respecting since the later part of last week trading session. So we want to see how price is going to relate to the current structure around here. Are we going to be having another bullish situation where we start seeing reversal pattern on lower time frame around here to join the rally to the upside, or are we going to be having a breakdown of that structure to incite a bearish signal, that is, price breaks down, retest to structure to send price crashing to the downside? So these are the two scenarios we are looking forward to on the US oil. So I hope you be on standby to take advantage of that move when it finally happens. Then we went on to talk about the US tech, where we took some profits last week and price moved. Sorry, I said last week. We took some profits yesterday as price plunged into the $10,870 level. And since price tested the $10,870 level, we have noticed that price has been caught within a channel right now between the $10,950 and the $10,870 level. And one thing I said here is that this is looking more like a bearish rectangular pattern, which is a trend continuation structure. And when we have a bearish rectangular pattern like this, we expect that price is going to break down the support level of the channel to set the tone for another trend continuation to the downside. And for those who took advantage of this move at the breakdown of the $10,870, kudos to you. But for those who didn't take advantage of that move, or probably you missed it, Well, let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance, which is likely going to come in the form of a retest of structure, after which we look out for patterns on lower time frame to join the decline to the downside. So that is that on the US tech. Then we went on to talk about the Euro USD, where we saw an advantage that was taken off yesterday after the FOMC, as we saw the breakdown of that important demand zone I told you. Remember, I told you that we are not going to be selling the Euro USD unless we see price breaks down that demand zone, which also lines up with the bullish trend line that has been holding price action in the last couple of months now. So we had this bullish trend line broken to give us a signal. Then we saw the retest of the 0.98400. In fact, we had like 4 to 5 times retest of that structure to give us that signal of a trend continuation to the downside. And for those who took advantage of this move, I was able to congratulate you guys, and you will currently be in about, let's see how many pips in profit, close to 100 pips in profit at this point. So I told you to move your stop loss to lock in some profit here as we wait to see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance to join this decline. So for those who missed out on that move, well, we want to be looking for a situation where price comes back to do a retest of that bearish trend line, or probably the 0.98100 level, followed by selling pressure on lower time frame. Then we could join the decline to the downside. So that being said, I also shared with you a situation where there is the possible scenario where price might break out of both the bearish trend line here and the 0.98100 level. And if that happens, don't be scared, don't be panicked, don't get into panic that the selling momentum has ended. It hasn't ended. Remember, we had the breakdown of that bullish trend line here during the course of yesterday's trading session. So we had a bullish trend line here broken. So there is a likelihood that price will be coming back to do a retest of that structure. So even if a breakout of the 0.98100 level happens, that is breakout of both that level and the bearish trend line, there is a likelihood that price might come back into the bullish trend line here. And if we look into the past, we can see that this level has a structure to play with. So price might come back to do the retest of that structure, and if we start seeing selling pressure from that area, it is an opportunity to join the decline. And if we have a breakdown of the 0.981, retest of structure gives us another opportunity to add more position to this trade. And if a breakdown of the bearish trend line happens, retest of structure again gives us another opportunity to add more position to this trade. So that is how we are looking at the Euro USD for today. So let's get ourselves prepared to take advantage of either of this move when it finally happens. Then we went on to talk about the GBPUSD, where we took advantage of a sell momentum yesterday after citing the breakdown of that important demand zone and the most anticipated 1.1400 level, which was broken as well, retest of structure, and we had price continue to the downside. And for those who took advantage of this move, they will definitely be in about, let's see, a minimum of 140 pips thereabout on the GBPUSD. Now, going into the New York session today, we are looking at a situation where the market is going to be giving us a second chance. We don't know if the market is going to be giving us a second chance, and if it does, we want to be looking at a retest of the 1.14 area. As you can see, also lines up with the bearish trend line that has been holding selling pressure since the beginning of the week. So let's see if the market is going to be doing a retest of that structure, and if it happens, we want to be joining the decline at a retest of that structure to join that decline to the downside. However, if price does not come that far and we start seeing consolidation phase around here, resulting into probably a bearish rectangular pattern, then definitely that's going to be a trend continuation pattern. Breakdown retest on our lower time frame should be giving us a leverage to add more position to our existing trade on the GBP USD. So that is that on the GBP USD. Then we went on to talk about the USDJPY, which was the last here. We talked about the XAUUSD as well. I thought I have treated this. So on the XAUUSD, we had a scenario where we had bearish momentum here on the XAUUSD, and we took advantage of the move at the breakdown retest of the $1,640 level. In fact, this price, the XAUUSD, moved exactly as projected. We saw the breakdown of this bullish trend line retest to structure to join the decline. Price broke down the 1,640, did a retest again to join the trend continuation to the downside. So at this point, I said, let's see if the market is going to be giving us a second chance, especially for those who missed out on both this opportunity that the market presented yesterday. So let's see if we are going to be having price come back to do a retest of either the $1,632 level or the $1,640 level. So I was able to identify a sell window around here. So let's see if we are going to be having a retest of the structure followed by selling pressure around this area to join the decline to the downside on the XAUUSD. So we went on to close the day with the USDJPY, where I told you I've already taken advantage of a bullish momentum here. No, I actually missed the first opportunity the market presented here. After citing this bullish move, price came back to do a retest of the 147 Japanese yen level, and then we saw the outright breakout of that bearish trend line. And one thing I said here is that for those who are taking advantage of this move at this point or at this point, kindly move your stop loss to lock in some profit, as there is a likelihood that we could be having a retracement back to the downside. So since we already had a breakout of the bearish trend line, and from a technical standpoint, whenever we have a breakout of a structure like this, we expect that price is likely going to come back to do a retest of that structure before we start seeing a bullish momentum. So a retest of structure could either come in the form of a retest of this bearish trend line, or probably the structure here or the 147.800 level. But the only way we can know if the retest of structure has happened is when we start seeing reversal pattern or buying pressure on lower time frame. Then we could join the rally to the upside. And I also said that if price does not come this far, that is, price does not come into the 147 or the bearish trend line here, and price continue to climb to the upside, well, I was able to identify at the 148.400 key structure here to make our job easier. So if price breaks out of the 148.400 area, then we want to be looking forward to a retest of the structure. Look out for patterns on lower time frame. Then we want to be joining the rally to the upside on the USDJPY. So on this note, I want to be calling it a day. I hope I was able to play out all the possible scenarios that is likely going to be happening during the New York session today. So it has been a wonderful moment with you guys, and remember I told you about the major events coming up today. So let's be mindful of this event, that this event is very likely going to be a catalyst for participants in this market to push price action. So we want to be mindful of this. Move our stop loss to lock in some profit at whatever level we are right now, because we don't want to get caught up in any sudden pullback that might come up in the market at this junction. So on this note, I want to wish you best of luck during the New York session today, and I look forward to seeing you same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. West African time, 11 a.m. UTC, sorry, 10 a.m. UTC, 11 a.m. West African time, and let's come here again, gather here to evaluate the financial market using our technical skills to identify trading opportunities lining up for us during the New York session tomorrow. So on this note, have a wonderful day, and bye bye.